Hello, everybody. Happy Halloween. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. No, we didn't dress up. We didn't hit our total for subscribers to dress up for Halloween, but we added a Halloween background for everybody. So happy to see you all here. Have a safe and happy Halloween this evening, of course. But first, let's talk some NBA basketball. We got a lot to get into today, some news to get into, and then we're going to finish things up with some scary stuff. What scares us the most about this upcoming NBA season, or this current NBA season, I should say? Keith, how you doing? Halloween. I'm excited for tonight. The candy, the costumes, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's very funny. The single biggest thing that's changed in Halloween for me is like the number of people who on like the various neighborhood apps are like, what time does trick-or-treating start? Do people go out now? It started as early as last weekend. People were like, do people go out on the weekend? And it's like, no, you just go on Halloween and like just don't like if lights are out, leave people alone. If their lights are going, what we do here though, everybody sits at the end of their driveway. With a bowl of candy, and that's how people hand it out. So yeah, but we're gonna have fun tonight. It's gonna be a good night, and then about the time it starts to slow down in our neighborhood, basketball will start. So I'll be inside doing work. So I'll be excited about that too.
There we go. There we go. By the way, if you guys are looking for a creepy show to check out, I would recommend Agatha. I watched the finale last night. They dropped the finale last night, 2-part. I was like going, this is going to be perfect to lead into Halloween. Oh, it was good. It was good. I see mixed reviews out there. I liked it. Did you watch it, Keith?
I have not. I am on episode 5. So like I'm like halfway through. I haven't even finished it out. I was watching actually, that's what I was doing this afternoon for a little bit of a break.
It's one of those, I guess first and foremost, like, you know how sometimes we complain, well, it doesn't advance the MCU enough or whatever. No, I think this introduces some pretty major characters. It's important. And then also it was one of those endings where you go, oh my God, now I have to go rewatch the whole thing because this changes everything that I thought was happening. It's cool. Yeah, I loved it. So you guys got it. Yeah, I'm not, again, I won't spoil anything, but I really enjoyed the finale of that one. So if you're looking for something spooky to watch tonight, go check that out. But all right, let's get into NBA news. Joel Embiid is playing 5-on-5, who reportedly has been for multiple days. Now, why the 76ers don't want to tell us this, I don't know. Nick Nurse just shutting down any comments, any questions about Joel Embiid. It would be better if they were just open and forthcoming about it, because it just creates more mystery around the situation and more speculation about what's really going on and why this guy isn't playing. Now, I understand they just got fined about $100,000 for their handling of this situation and the way that they've spoken about things publicly. So that probably is a factor in them just wanting to stay silent about the whole thing. But still, weird situation. Good to hear, though, that he's playing 5-on-5. Hopefully that means a return is coming very, very soon.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what we really want, right? Get back on the court. Same with Paul George. But yeah, I did all the mystery around this. Maybe they're just they're in spooky season and they want it to be a little mysterious and a little like covered in darkness. I don't know. But yeah, it's just weird to me. Like you could have just said he tweaked the knee. He's going to need a little bit more time. Yes, Sixers fans probably would have gone into full-blown panic mode for about a week. Instead, you now have stretched this for like a month worth of time, because this has been going on since the start of training camp. And like, everybody's like, what's going on? Is he ready? Is he hurt? Nobody said he has an injury. Didn't look hurt at the Olympics. What is happening? You told us he was in great shape. Where are we going? And now we're finally took $100,000 fine, but at least we're getting some level of updates. But we're getting kind of secondhand through leaked reports and the like. But the important thing is, sounds like he'll be back fairly soon. And for that part, I'm excited.
Yeah, great to see a very talented player like him hopefully getting back on the court soon. If he's played in multiple 5-on-5 games, that's usually the final step of the progression, right? Yeah. Guys go non-contact, contact, 3-on-3, 5-on, that's kind of the progression that we see as players ramp up to return. So that should mean he'll be back on the floor very, very soon. All right, let's go. Lonnie Walker. I know a lot of people were keeping a really close eye on him, surprised with the deal that he was on with the Boston Celtics. The Celtics would have cost them, I believe you had reported it was going to be over $11 million to keep him when you add in the tax payments and everything to keep him. So the Boston Celtics ultimately decided to move on from Lonnie Walker And now he's wound up with a team in Lithuania. Now, I know the first thing everybody's going to ask, though, Keith, does this have an NBA out? If a team comes knocking midseason, they say they get some injuries or something and need somebody, could Lonnie Walker find himself back in the NBA?
Yeah, and it does have an NBA out, and it's a fairly affordable one. It's about 450,000, which my guess was a very targeted number,
Yeah.
knowing if I get back to the NBA, even on a prorated deal, I will make that back. And whether we'll see, because teams can give so much towards a buyout that amount is kind of locked in stone. So we'll see where this goes. But with Lonnie Walker, the other interesting thing is the buyout is intact until February 18th. So anytime between now and right after the trade deadline, kind of when we're in like, all right, we've made our moves, we've waived some guys, we've opened up what raw spots we're going to be, he can opt out of his deal with Zalgiris in Lithuania and come back over to the NBA if he wants to do that. And in the meantime, he'll play in a high level league on a very good team. Get him better than the G League at this point, probably for him. He's probably making better money too. So he'll be able to be over there putting in work and staying ready. And if he looks really good and the team wants to call, fairly easy to get him back over to the NBA.
Right. Okay. So that's probably a good decision here by Lonnie Walker. He's going to stay ready, and then an NBA team very well may wind up calling him up. All right, let's get to rookie scale team options.
Sorry, one thing on that amount was Mike Scotto from Hoops iPad. Because I want to just make sure we give him credit for that, because everybody else was just reporting that there was a buyout. He actually had the amount.
Okay, good to know. All right, so Keith, now let's get into the rookie scale team options. I know we had the surprising news earlier today that we talked about over on Lakers Nation that Jalen Hood-Schifino had his option declined by the Lakers. We broke down in detail what that all means. So if you guys want more detail on that, what it means for the Lakers, their spending power, the trade market, that sort of thing, that's over on the Lakers Nation YouTube channel. But interesting, that one got declined. Any other surprises in terms of the rookie scale options?
Not necessarily surprises, but just kind of thought process behind a couple of these. David Roddy had his declined with the Atlanta Hawks. And to be clear, again, I've said this before, but it's worth restating. These aren't actually declined. They just simply aren't picked up. So what happens is the deadline passes, they don't get picked up. So it's semantics there, but it just kind of is, because a lot of people ask, like, I haven't seen an official transaction declining it. And it doesn't happen like that. They just don't get picked up. So Atlanta did, and I'll use the word declined David Roddy's option. Basically, that was salary maneuvering when they acquired him. He started for them last night because they have so many guys out with injuries. It's a little ridiculous how many guys are down for the Hawks. But when healthy, he's in an extremely crowded wing group. He's really a very, very undersized power forward and just doesn't have enough juice to really crack an NBA rotation the way you need him to. So they're moving on from him. Washington, we talked about this a little bit, but Patrick Baldwin Jr. and Johnny Davis, they declined. If you think Lakers fans are upset about Jalen Hood-Schifino being a wasted draft pick, well, Johnny Davis was a lottery pick that Washington didn't even make it to the end of his rookie scale deal, and not because of injuries. So that's brutal for the Wizards. But new regime leading that team, and is like, he wasn't our pick. He's not working out. We're gonna move on, and they can have about probably in the range of 25 to 30 million in cap space. So why put money on the board on the books for next year with Davis and Baldwin, and then Marjon Beauchamp of Milwaukee? This one right now, and again, qualify all these with today. This is a straight tax savings move for next year. They're going to be very expensive. So you clear him off the books and you save a bunch of tax money for a guy who has been unable to crack the rotation to this point. And then Hood-Schifino's, just in case people don't catch the Lakers Nation show, we know it's Halloween. There's a lot going on. Maybe you're going to pick one show or the other today. The thought process there is it's flexibility moving forward. They basically put themselves in range of opening up the full non-taxpayer MLE for next season, which is really good for the Lakers, considering where they're at salary-wise, and they should be able to pull that off with maybe another move or two. But we'll see again. If they make a much bigger move, they might be in a completely different place. But as of right now, cap flexibility. One left, Jake LaRavia of the Memphis
Yeah,
Grizzlies. That's the only one we haven't heard on just yet. Well, we'll see. My guess is that gets picked up. I think
yeah,
he's
I would
shown
have to
enough.
imagine he was good last
Yeah,
year.
I would hope. Yeah, he was pretty good down the stretch last year, and he's been okay to start this year. So I'd hope Memphis picks that up, and then you kind of give yourself just you. It's like getting an offensive rebound, right? You get a little bit more time on the clock to figure out exactly how to score. So yeah, well, why not just extend that out a little bit?
That's a good preview for scary time because that's something that I'm going to get into. In fact,
Oh, I love it.
why don't we get there now? Scary time. In fact, I'm going to try this. We normally don't play background music or anything, but let me see. Hopefully I'm mixing this correctly here. There we go. We got a little bit of scary music here for our scary time.
Man, hopefully we don't
All
get
right.
copyrighted.
No. This is the YouTube approved music that I got this from. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. This is the YouTube approved music. This is music from YouTube. So there we go. Hopefully it's not fighting with.
Is there like a YouTube person who like sits down and like actually writes and records all this? Like that'd be kind of.
I think they've got contributors that do all this stuff.
I'm sure it's
they've got
probably mostly computer generated at this point in life, but who knows? That's a whole different kind of scary time. Let's keep it to scary time for the NBA. Skynet will be here eventually.
Oh God, scary time. Let's go. Aside from winding up in some kind of dystopian post-apocalyptic future, let's talk about scary time for the NBA. We've got a few topics here, some things that we think could be terrifying for the NBA. And Keith, number one, you led us right into it. For me, it is the return of offensive rebounding, and this is something I've been following very closely around the NBA. I was fascinated by the style with which the Knicks played last season, but it determined to just crush teams on the offensive glass. We've talked about it a lot over on Lakers Nation that what offensive rebounds tend to produce are the two most valuable shots in basketball. And that's a shot right at the rim and a wide open three. Those are the two most valuable shots. Now, free throws obviously get mixed in there, but in terms of live ball shots right at the rim and wide open threes are the most valuable shots in terms of points per possession. And that's what offensive rebounds tend to create. Now, looking at right now, this should be frightening for a lot of teams. Look at this. Keith, last season, the New York Knicks led the way in offensive rebounds with 12.7 per game. Right now, that would just wouldn't even crack the top 10 this season in offensive rebounds per game. Long way to go, of course, and this could be early season teams maybe missing a little bit more on the offensive end, missing more shots than they will midseason, perhaps, if they're not quite in midseason form. But still, offensive rebounding, way up for NBA teams on average, and that, I think, is exciting and scary at the same time.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think what's really interesting too is I think this I wish I could remember for sure. I think it was Danny LaRue said this over on Dunked On that we are approaching the highest offensive rebound rates in like 30 years. I think it was in the league. Teams basically a while back said no more offensive rebounds there.
Yep.
You lose so much defensively by crashing the boards. Just get back. I wonder, and I don't even know how you'd begin quantifying this without like really diving into the film of it. I wonder how many of these are coming off of long offensive rebounds off missed threes. Because now teams take more threes. Those create long rebounds. So
those are what the Warriors grab a lot of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And my last thought is, because I'm 100% with you, offensive rebounds, either an easy putback, right? That's your number one option. Or you kick out for a wide open three. You know, it's become like the third, like best shot you can get. Rebounder grabs it and the shooter cuts to the basket itself. Because nobody blocks out the shooter anymore. Like it used to be, I mean, right? We both played and did, the ancient times in high school.
That was drilled into us.
Get out, turn, and put your butt into the shooter and box them out. Right? Like that was how you did it. And now it's like nobody really does that anymore. Now, part of that is you got to be careful of getting in the landing space and all that other stuff.
Sure.
And often the guy who contests the open jump shot, they leak out to be the first man down the floor. So I've noticed a lot of teams are now sending the shooter. If it looks like they're going to get the offensive rebound, the shooter is then making a cut and somebody else peels back to cover. So a little interesting take there, but I like it. It's a good one.
Okay, why don't we go to your first thing? And I've got three. If we each do three, we'll get through it here.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what I've got. I'm gonna go super simple here. Like everybody should know this. It's injuries. Like we are seeing so many injuries right now. It is really worrisome because these are injuries to some big time guys. We are getting some guys back. We already talked about Joel Embiid. Sounds like Paul George is not going to be far behind Embiid, or maybe same time for the two of them. A couple other guys are returning as well. But we've just had a lot of guys out with injuries. And a lot of these are not it's pseudo load management stuff. These are real legitimate injuries that are keeping guys on the shelf. So that's worrisome when it's this early in the season.
Absolutely. Injuries were something that I had on my list as well, because they have been scary. And of course, I mean, the Taylor Hendricks one, awful what happened there. But yes, that's
a gory, creepy movie,
right?
Exactly. If you like a gore fest, that one was awful.
All right, one of my scary things though, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. How good this team already is, and how good they can be in the future. Here's the thing: you look at OKC, you look at their tradable assets and what they've got to potentially put together into a deal. Should somebody pop onto the market, this team is so good already. I think we have to consider them legitimate title contenders right now. They don't even have Isaiah Hartenstein back. Chet Holmgren's been playing great basketball. SGA is phenomenal. They're young. They're a problem right now. They can actually add to this with their war chest of draft picks. Now, some of those picks are not the highest of quality, but nonetheless, they could stack up a bunch of picks and go get another piece to add to this already impressive team. And again, they're so young that I think they're going to be a problem for years to come. Now, of course, they themselves, the Thunder, are the cautionary tale from about 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, when we thought the Thunder, when they made it to the NBA Finals, okay, well, they're going to be here forever now. And then they weren't. They never made it back to the finals after that, made a few poor decisions like the James Harden trade and things of that nature. But they are the cautionary tale in that regard. But still, it's hard to not look at this Thunder team and think, man, this team is going to be a powerhouse for a while.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, they're loaded. It is somewhat due to his own creation of Giannis saying, well, if we don't do well, they'll trade me. And that's kind of sparked some of it. And I've seen everybody being so the Thunder then, I guess,
right?
Why not? Because they're well positioned. They're between their salary sheet as well as all their assets. They can kind of within reason go get anybody they want. That's frightening because they'll be able to do that without gutting what makes the team really good right now. Yeah, they're gonna have to give up a guy or two, but they can give up a guy or two, which is that's definitely scary. All right, I'm gonna go with my TV announcer voice here. Just when you thought a big lead was safe, we have no lead safe anymore in the NBA, right? It doesn't matter. The Boston Celtics were getting their butts whipped by the Indiana Pacers last night. Absolutely getting their tails kicked, and they came back from 20 down in the fourth quarter to force overtime. They ended up losing their first game of the season to the Pacers in overtime, but just with the way teams take threes, the way they'll pick up the pace, if you can string together enough stops in conjunction with making shots, it feels like 30 in the fourth quarter should feel safe, and even that's starting to feel a little sketchy if there's more than 10 minutes left. I used to use a rule of thumb. This was something somebody told me years ago that worked in the NBA. If you are up by double the amount of points that there is time left, so 20 points with 10 minutes left, 10 points with 5 minutes left, you should feel good about your chances of winning the game. I'm starting to think that's more like triple the amount of time left on the clock to feel good about it.
And my final thing is right in line with what you're saying. It is the power of the three and the volume of the threes. Keith, oh my God. Look at this. Your Celtics, 51.6 threes per game. They led the NBA last season with 42.5 threes per game. They've added nearly 10 3-point attempts per game onto last season's league leading total. They are now shooting more than 50% of their attempts, their total attempts are 3-pointers. That is absolutely incredible. I do wonder if we eventually hit the point of diminishing returns. The old idea of threes don't win you championships, it's gone. Now you have to shoot a high volume of threes to win championships because the level of shot making has gone up from behind the arc to that degree. But again, think about what I just said. 42.5 led the NBA in 3-point attempts per game last season. There are currently 6 teams, including the Orlando Magic. How about that? That are shooting more per game, more threes per game than the top team in the NBA did last season. Keith, the threes are flying this year, and it'll be interesting to see if it continues at this pace. But my goodness, teams are chucking up threes. We've never seen anything like this before.
No, definitely not. Do me a favor, since you have this screen up, click the 3-point percentage and sort by that, because this is where it's also key. Boston, it's the volume and the percentage combination.
Yep. You have
the
to have
Knicks
both.
are shooting great, but they're taking 20 less per game than the Celtics. So that's turning into 9 less made threes per game. The Cavs shooting great, but you're taking 15 less. So you're making 7 less per game than Boston. That is, for them, that's a 27-point margin. Yeah, or excuse me, a 21-point margin that you need to try to make up in those games. So here's the thing with this, what the Celtics do, and this is why they're ruining the NBA and it's no good, all that stuff that was talked about last week, I think that was. It's not everybody can do this. One, you have to have good shooters because nobody's going to roll out guys who can't shoot and just be like, you need to go take 50 a game. They don't play any non-shooters minus Luke Cornett. Talked about it. It's just kind of funny that it's Luke Cornett because he hasn't, he used to be a 3-point shooter, and how they generate them is very different. The Celtics generate theirs through incredible ball movement because they generally have 5 guys on the floor who can really pass too.
Yeah.
The Knicks are generating theirs out of pick and pop, but you can only run so many of those actions. Minnesota's generating theirs. Almost half of those are coming from Anthony Edwards, who's shooting off the dribble. The Warriors, it's the same as the Celtics, right? Incredible ball movement. It's how they're getting there. So that's the thing that makes it different. When everybody says, well, I'm scared of this because you've got 30 teams all playing the exact same way, they don't. Everybody gets there a little different. Last thing, because I want to tie it to your first scary thing, the other thing with Boston, they're getting on the offensive glass too. Like if you're getting on the offensive glass that much and shooting that well, that's really worrisome because you're cranking out extra possessions over and over and over again. They're just not, the other teams just aren't getting.
Well, and that's where, so my 3 categories that I keep the closest eye on, and it's no surprise based on what we've talked about here, it's turnovers and then offensive rebounds and 3-point percentage. Because, 3-point percentage / 3-point volume. Those three things tend to determine who's going to win an NBA game. If you win the battle in 2 of those 3, you have a pretty good shot to win a game. If you win the battle in all 3 of those things in any given game, you are really, really in good shape to win the game because your volume of shots is just going to be higher than your opponent because you're getting on the offensive glass. You're not turning the ball over as much. And then if you're hitting your threes, that's also going to increase your margins there in order to win a game. And you look at the Celtics, like you said, Keith, the turnovers are low, just 11 per game. So they're one of the best teams in the NBA when it comes to turnovers. They're second in the NBA there. They're getting on the offensive glass. Not crazy because so many teams are, but still middle of the pack is really good.
Adjusted, it's a little bit higher because they don't play at a super fast pace. So
and that's where we jump into, and it's not on. I wish it was on this screen, but it's not. But that's where I like to sort by offensive rebound percentage because that takes out pace and all of that. And it also takes out if a team is, if they get fouled a lot and they shoot a lot of free throws and you lose offensive rebound attempts because of that can muddy the water as well. So I like to go to offensive rebound percentage to get a better idea of how many of the teams really available offensive rebounds of teams grabbing. But still, those 3 categories tend to be really, really important to the success of an NBA team in today's NBA. And the Celtics are pretty good at all of them. And those are, that's where you see these teams that are shooting a lot of threes. they're also winning a lot of games as long as they're not deficient in one of those other categories. Like you look at the Hornets, oh, they're shooting a lot of threes, they're shooting a decent percentage, they're hitting the offensive glass, oh, but they turn the ball over a ton. So they're 2-2. And I think that's how it'll play out on the season. The Celtics, they're pretty good at all three. They're 4-1. Like that's the way a lot of this breaks down.
And what this all comes back to, it's about margins, right? You're trying to take margins from here and blow them out to, now you can't even see me on the screen, but you're trying to blow the margins out wider, right? Like you're just trying to make those margins as big as you can. And one of the best ways to create margins, because you got to remember, right? We love to hammer on pace, but within a single game, both teams play at the same pace, right? It's going to be whose style wins out, but both teams play at the same pace. But how you create extra shots is offensive rebounds, keeping your turnovers low. And then if those extra shots are the most valuable shots in the game, well, that's how you blow your margins out. And that's why, part of what we saw last year was the Celtics they finished, I believe it was with the fourth best scoring differential all time in the regular season because they had a million blowouts. And that was why, because they really pushed those margins on it. So that's what, we're going to see with that. All right, I'm going to jump to my last. I'm going to sneak in a second one because they're semi-related. Okay. But my last one is some of the old teams, if we want to steal from, I think it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, Old. Yep. They look real old sometimes. Like look real old at times. And that is a little bit worrisome. Whereas I've looked at some of these older teams, Milwaukee, for example, they have struggled out of the gate a little bit. They are 1-3. There's times where Philadelphia, one of the older teams, even though a lot of that's related to George and Embiid, haven't played. They've struggled out of the gate. So that's just something to keep an eye on here a little bit. On the flip side, the super young teams are also struggling, but that's been true my entire life of watching the NBA. My second related to the old thing is, I'm sure you saw it, being a Lakers guy, LeBron, you're going to stay till your other kid plays too? Like, what, are you ever going to retire? Like, come on, man. Time. Give somebody else a chance. Like, what are we doing? He's going to set the scoring record so far that it's going to be like our kids. And I don't even know what that works out to grandchildren because I'm not that smart to do that on the fly. But, like, that's going to be who's, like, out there, like, breaking that scoring record. And that's probably going to be because we have 4 and 5 point shots or something. And, we played, games that are, 300 to 250. That's more fun than anything. It's Halloween. Let's have that was crazy.
The thing is that when our kids are watching the NBA, LeBron will still be playing.
Yeah, that's true.
He will still be
adding to the margin. Yeah,
he'll still be adding to his total. But yeah, he's going to be out there against players with cybernetic implants and all kinds of stuff. And Team Skynet is taking on just to bring things full circle, is taking on NBA players. But no, this is exciting. I'm excited for the scary season. I think we've seen some really cool things here going around the NBA. And some scary things too with how good these teams are playing basketball right now.
Without a doubt. Hey, I'm going to just think about this throughout the night tonight. And then we can talk about it tomorrow on Front Office Friday. Because a friend of mine, not even a real basketball guy, he's like the casualist of casual fans, asked me this question. Who will play their final game in the NBA first? LeBron or Bronny? And I was like, everything says it should be LeBron. But I was like, there's a world where, like, if Bronny just doesn't hack it, that it's like 2-3 years in, he's done, and LeBron's still going because LeBron is now full on in Tom Brady territory where, all right, I'll believe you're going to retire when you actually retire. And that means the next season tips off and finishes without you having played a game. Because I wouldn't count out it being like, I'm bored. I had my Halloween party and all my teammates weren't there because they're off playing and I couldn't have them all there. I'm coming back. right? Like that. Maybe that's where it goes. But a good friend of mine asked me that question, and he's not even like trying to start an argument or a hot take. But I was like, man, it's kind of a weird question because everything says it should be Bronny, but who knows?
Absolutely. You never know where that's all going to go. All right, everybody. We do appreciate you joining us for today's show. Have a very happy and safe Halloween. Until next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.